Welcome back to the unofficial Squarespace Entrepreneur Podcast. My name's Omari Harabin, and if this is your first time listening, this show is all about building a business on Squarespace, especially businesses that serve the users of Squarespace. So if that sounds like you, then you're in the right place. Today I wanted to talk about my greatest fear starting an online business, or when I started my online business. And it's a fear that I had to conquer bit by bit along the way. But it's one that I think is worth sharing and talking about because if you listen to me, you might not guess it. If you've consumed any of my content over the years, you might think that Omari is just immune to this. But that's not the case at all. And the fear is just the fear of judgment, the fear of being judged when you put yourself out there on the free and open internet. I remember when I started out, it was a really tough time for me in my personal life because all of the systems and institutions that I had grown up in had rejected me. They had deemed me no longer suitable for their programs. Now, that wasn't stated explicitly, but it was implied by the changes that I was making in my life and the direction that I was taking, that those prior institutions were no longer messing with me. And and so what that meant was I was very uncertain about how I would be now received on the internet trying to create an online business. And I remember I decided to lean into it. And so around that time, I changed my name to Ross Omari. And many of you might still remember or might still call me Ross. But the reason for that transformation at that point in time was I needed to create a new identity for myself in order to overcome what I was trying to overcome. And there's power in the title Ross. It calls attention to it calls the attention of your consciousness to wherever you direct it to. That's the underlying power of the Ross. And when I took on that title and I decided to start this particular business, I wasn't sure how I was going to be received, right? I knew I wasn't going to hide myself. I'd already hidden myself in the corporate environment at work. I'd already hidden myself in a religious environment at church. I'd already hidden myself in personal relationships. And so I was done with any kind of hiding, and now it was time to just be, right? And I just started growing my locks at the time. They're still kind of small, and I wasn't sure how this young Ross would be judged out here on the interwebs. And what I've learned and what a fear of mine was really early as well was like I knew that as you grow, as you scale, as more and more people become aware of you, well, that opens you up to more and more judgment, possibilities to be judged or rejected. And it's taken, the better part of a decade just to get really, really comfortable in this domain, just to get really comfortable with myself so that I can present and give the best from myself to an audience. So hopefully that helps you if, perhaps you struggle with being judged or rejected by strangers on the internet for putting yourself out there. It's not easy. And it's a process because you don't stop changing, right? Like I'm not the same person that I was 8 years ago. I'm not even the same person that I was 30 days ago. But being comfortable with that, I think, has been really important or really key for me. So, using this podcast as an example, the first episode I recorded in 2018, and I hated it. I didn't publish it because I I sounded just like my guest. And no offense to my guest, great guy, but I wasn't as myself. I was still in a state of a habitual pattern of being a chameleon with my environment in order to fit in. And I that very first episode, I was like, no, I can't publish this. I have to continue trying to like get to my voice, regardless of the guest, regardless of who I'm speaking to, regardless of the environment. I have to get to my voice. And so 5 years later, episode 50 something, you're listening to the voice of Omari Haribin, January 2024. Now the voice is going to change. It's not going to stay the same, but I can tell you that this is me. There's no pretense. It's like I'm on the phone with my brethren. That's what you're getting. And to be able to get to this place is a massive accomplishment for me. And I'm kind of shy to say that, but it's the truth. And so, so what was the point of that last part? The point of the last part is that it's okay to be in development. It's okay to not be all together yet. Like it's okay. It's okay for it not to be perfect. And I remember I made this decision for myself as well. Like, you know what? There's always this image in my head of perfection of how good something could be. And then there's always like my current reality, which always falls short. And so instead of judging my current based off of what could be or some future possibility, just allow it to be in the present. And I can make judgments later on in the future. And by the time I make a judgment later on in the future, that judgment will be way more valid than in the present because I've grown or I've improved. And so I'm not editing from the same consciousness that I created. And I think that's what I was trying to get to, right? Is a way that I learned to process this fear of judgment is by refining my own self-judge and delaying judgment until a time. So I'll go for a whole year. I won't listen to myself. I'll just go. And then after a year, I'll look back and I'll say, okay, well, now my judgments, they're not just like, now I can act on them with better information. Now I can act on them from a place of experience versus just judging myself based off of something I've imagined as better. Wow. So, that's been my process. So I've turned off my own self-judge for long enough periods of time to get things out of myself. And if I didn't do that, nothing would come out. Right? Like when I turn on my self-judge in creation mode, then I'm just in a loop of stop, delete, record, and record again. Stop, delete, record again. Like that's what happens if the self-judge, the editor, and the creator are like in the same space of time. Which that as an exercise, sometimes that's just an exercise that I need to do where it's just putting in the reps, where you don't publish anything, you don't put it out there, but you just keep going over it, keep going over it until it becomes a part of you. And then in time, when you deliver it, it's because it's easier and it flows a lot better because it's now a part of you. So I didn't script any of this. I didn't anticipate to go in this direction. But I hope it helps you in some way as you go into a new year. Perhaps content is something that you've never done. I remember I used to make fun of YouTube personalities a long time ago. And And then I remember becoming a YouTuber, kind of. Not really though. Maybe in 2024. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Couple new episodes that I'm about to publish as well. So check those out. And if you'd like to be on the show, I'd be happy to have you. So just send me an email.